Hello and welcome to the weekly Yes, a podcast where two best friends talk about their joint mission to say yes to life. I am your host, Jara Skagfjord, and co-host is my bestie, the amazing Kristin Guerin. On today's episode, Kristin and I talk about the concept of finding your why, how sometimes loss is needed to manifest what you want, and we discuss the importance of anchoring things in love. For today's Fast Fact, I am just going to do what I did a few episodes ago when I didn't have anything for today's Fast Facts, which is to drop you straight into our conversation. Enjoy.
But it's just, what I'm saying is so boring. It's just stuff.
Look,
You
then
know what I mean?
be grateful for just the life stuff. When you're dealing with the big meta stuff, it's not worth it.
No.
I would love some little life stuff.
Tiny
I would love to be
life
upset.
stuff.
I would love to be upset about my new roommate eating my avocado the other day, but I just
Right.
don't care because don't have the capacity to care about the fact that she ate my. Although Yada, she didn't eat my avocado though. She took the avocado, she took it and she cut it, and then she put it in the fridge. Didn't take a single bite of it, and it just sat there and decayed. And I didn't realize until was it yesterday that I was like, "Oh wait, was that my avocado?" And I was like, "I think that was my avocado."
I'm sorry. Why is that the most infuriating thing I have ever heard in my life?
This person is definitely triggering me.
It's so violating. You took my avocado, you cut it in half, and you didn't even eat it?
And I was like, "What is the smell in the fridge?" I'm pretty sure it's my avocado. I didn't write my initials on it, so hard to know.
How are you going to
but,
write your initials? What, are you going to take a Sharpie on an avocado? Oh my.
This situation has taught me acceptance because also it's only 6 weeks. We only have a week left, less than a week left with this housing situation. I don't think I was very good at accepting things before, but I'm very good at it now. I had 4 weeks of practice, 5 weeks of practice now. This is just the situation and I'm fine. Okay, my avocado was taken and tortured her. I was like, but it's fine. I'm fine. Yeah, she ate my sandwich the other day, which is very Ross from Friends. Anyway, what's up?
I feel like I just woke up. Internally, I'm experiencing a lot of stress. I used to carry low-grade stress with me all the time, and I didn't have it for a while, and now it's back. And I'm like, ooh, I'm remembering what this is. I'm remembering what this feels, and I don't like it. And what I'm noticing, it's mostly work-related, and it's work-related in a way that I'm like, I don't even know how to explain it. Nothing is actually happening. There's nothing actually stressful happening at work. But every time I'm not working or I'm not actively in the office, quote unquote, because I work from home, I'm just a little bit stressed out. I'm worried I made a mistake. I'm worried that I'm not on top of things. I'm worried, it's very
Interesting.
Yeah, it's very odd. I don't know what's going on with that. But so it's just something that I'm noticing. And I think it's a part of what it's related to is just the fact that a lot of life stuff is just going on, and our schedules and routines have been all over the place. I have not been able to get back to my routine and my nurturing, my self-care. And I just what's happening right now is I'm just self-soothing with Instagram nonstop. And I've been thinking for the past 2 days I need social media detox stat. And it's very benevolent. It's very benevolent, but it's just on autopilot. It's not I'm scrolling for hours and hours. It's more just I need to numb or I need to zone out. So I take it and I open it and I scroll for maybe even just 5 minutes. It's not even that long. It's just dog videos and interior design. You know what I mean? That's it. But I'm just noticing that, okay, I'm not grounded. I'm not present. I'm not in my body. And I know I'm doing this backwards, but that's really what I need to say yes to in the upcoming week. Is just getting back into my body, gather myself. Yeah. That's where I'm at.
I get that. Yeah, I was there last week because so many things were just up in the air for me. And I think I shared with you this thing of that my Kabbalah teacher said. I spoke to him because I was like, I'm struggling. What do I do? He's my therapist. And I just felt everything, I was so stressed out. I felt everything was up in the air. There was nothing I could cling to. I felt so ungrounded and there was no anchor. There was nothing. I kept grabbing for things, but I was so hard. And he said to me, he was like, there are areas in your life that aren't up in the air. For example, you brush your teeth every day. Ground with that. Be 100% present in brushing your teeth. Be 100% present in going to the gym. Don't be thinking about everything. Be 100% present. Ground fully. Be in your body. Be present in that moment. Yeah. And in a Kabbalistic way of thinking of it, like that's the way that the light gets in is when we're 100%, when we're 100% focused on a thing, when we're 100% in. So like when you're at work, 100% be at work. When you're out of work, 100% be out of work. When you're
Yeah.
with a person, 100% be with that person. When you're not with that person, you got to leave that person. You can't think about that person. You can't. That was my thing. If you're committed to being in the city that you're in right now, be in that city. Don't be worried about when do I leave, when to be present. Yeah. So that was interesting. And then the other thing that just came up today, I'm reading, I don't know the name of the author. It's Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. I am loving it. This has been recommended to me many times over the years and I just haven't done it. And I've been obsessed with it. I was listening to my walk to work today. He says, I think every part of life should be play. And he was like, and if there's a part of life that isn't play, he was like, evaluate why you're doing it. So he was like, so right now, go make a list of all of your have-tos, the things that you're resenting doing. So, okay, I'm going to do it. And I just did it just like a couple hours ago. And it included work. It included grant writing for myself, for my artistry, and then also for the organization. It included applying to new agents, submitting new agents, a few other things I can't remember. But I went through each of them and he was like, go through each of them and clarify for yourself or ask yourself, why am I doing this thing? So I'm writing this grant, this artist grant. I hate writing grants. I hate it so much. I'm writing this artist grant because I believe in my work and I believe that my work has value in the world. And I believe that it's going to change the world. And I think it's important, the work I'm doing and creating. And so therefore, I'm going to commit to doing this because it will allow me to make my artistry and allow me to play. That's going to, or one of the things that came up was auditioning. I hate auditioning. And I was like, what if you didn't? What if you were like, what part of auditioning do I hate? Oh, I hate memorizing scripts. Okay, that's understandable. You memorize the script so that you can play in the audition. So that if you don't memorize the script, I don't, for any actors listening or this, you're just so focused on the lines that like you can't play. You're just like, you got to get out of that. You got to get past that. Or even at work, I had to clarify for myself, what exactly am I hating? What do I hate? Because I was like, it's not all of work. I love having meetings. I love doing financial stuff. I love doing budgeting. There's certain things I really enjoy. Mm-hmm. And so he was like, so his advice was, if you find something, you're like, this one specific thing, and I hate it, then either give it to somebody else to do, outsource it, or stop doing it. One of his examples was like, he's a psychologist or psychiatrist, and he was saying he had to write these reports on his clients. And he was like, why am I doing these reports? I hate every time I have to do these reports. I hate it. And he was like, why am I doing it? And he said, I realized the only reason I was doing it is because it gave me more funding. Like I could get more money from doing the reports. He said, when I realized that, I was like, screw that. I'm not going to do these anymore. That's not a good enough reason. Do you know, that's like an ego reason. That's not a sole reason. He was like, so screw this. He was like, I'd rather go through garbage cans and find cans and get 5 cents for the kid. I'd rather do that than write these ever again. He was like, so I'm going to find other ways to make money and stop. He's like, and I haven't written a single one since I made that decision. I was like, I love that. So I don't know. Those are the two things that just came up for me because I've been in a very similar place. And it sounds like something similar I just did for myself today.
That's actually fantastic advice. I honestly might just do this. It also reminds me of a couple of things. One of them is I'm a huge fan of outsourcing. The bane of my existence is cleaning. So the one thing that I do outsource is just like deep cleaning. Like when you really have to clean the apartment, I'm like, once a month, once every 6 to 8 weeks or whatever, I get a cleaner because I can't do it. It's the most boring, most tedious, I can't, like it is worth the money for me. I know it's not cheap, but it's so worth, never have I ever regretted getting a cleaner ever. Even when I was broke. I would still do it a couple of times a year when I was broke. That's how important that is to me because it's also important to me to have a clean house.
Yeah.
So the investment was always worth it. And then what I really like about it is that not only are you getting to your why and like your shoulds, is, this is just a should because people expect me to, or because I feel like I should. I was like, I'm an adult and I think that's what I should be doing. What's also really lovely, what you said, reminds me of, what's his name? Simon something. What's his last name? Simon?
Mm-hmm. Simon Sinek. Yeah.
Sinek.
Your reason why.
Yeah, I think he has a book on it or something. What is your why? Which is a great concept. Yeah. But I love that you found out when you started digging is you were able to find the love. Like you're actually able to anchor it in love. It's something that I remember from a director randomly. This was one of the first workshops, like actor workshops that I did during the pandemic. And his whole thing was with every single scene, it didn't matter what kind of scene it was, like he would give the same note, just like anchor it in love and see what happens. Anchoring it in
Yeah.
love, like you can't, like the ego can't get in the way. Like I think I was doing a scene where I was coming to the protagonist's house, who was my sister, and I was worried about her. Like the way that it was written is that they're fighting and she's like super mad at her.
Mm.
So that was like the first round that I did, and he was like, okay, this was great, now anchor it in love. And it changed the entire dynamic. So there were moments when I was angrier because it was anchored in love. There were moments where I was kinder and more compassionate because it was anchored in love. There were moments where I was quiet and just like listening, just like taking things in because it was anchored in love. And it was so simple. It was so simple. It wasn't about anything. It's, oh, you have to remember when you walk in here that you guys have a history, and that it wasn't overthinking. All like it's almost like your body or your system or whatever just like understands that on such like a primal, foundational, like fundamental level, anchoring something in love, that it just changes everything. It just has this ripple effect on everything. And the different actors that were doing scenes interpreted it in a different way, because first of all, there are different things that the characters are going through, like the circumstances are different and all of that. But I think it also because it means different things to us. Anyway, that's what it made me think about.
Yeah, that's such a simple but beautiful note. I love that. Yeah, and definitely so easy. It's such a human acting note as opposed to what is your objective or your tactic. It's no, just be a human who loves.
Yeah.
Like your human self knows how to love. So just
Yeah.
very natural acting. I love that.
Great. What did you say yes to this week?
Boy. So today is the 4-year anniversary of an assault I experienced that changed my life. I was assaulted doing a show.
Today?
Today, 4
Wow.
years ago. So it's the third in a series of 3 assaults. And it was the physical one. The others were verbal and spiritual, emotional. And then the third one was today, 4 years ago. It was during probably the biggest show of my career, I'd say, the biggest play of my career. And it halted my career. It stopped less than a month later. We were in COVID times and the show was closed, but I was in excruciating pain. There was so much trauma that I had to work through, and a lot of friction in my relationship with the industry and my relationship with my artistry and the business and my job. And I'm in the process of restarting my acting career. I want to do it this week in honor of, I knew it was around this time, in honor of this anniversary and another anniversary, which was actually my intention 2 years ago this Saturday. So in 4 days from now, I took a break from acting, a very intentional break from my acting career. And it took me 2 years from the assault to the time that I was ready to give it up. The whole time just feeling friction and like driving with all like half of the engine on the ground. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Speaking of
super slow down the
shoulds.
highway. Yeah. And just like forcing it. And then I took what I said was going to be a month-long break. And 2 years later, I'm ending that break. It's been really interesting to watch the time close, right? To watch this window of time end. And it's so poetic and makes so much sense. Of course, it was the anniversary. Of course, I had to wait until this last week of February, which is the anniversary of both things, both major things. Yeah. So my yes this week has been to that, which is interesting because a week ago, I was not on track to do that. I had said I wanted to do it by the end of this month. I made this intention like a month ago. I was like, I'm almost ready and I'm basically ready. I just need to like put my ducks in a row. I'm taking this course to help me clarify what I want in the industry, what I'm looking for in agents, in managers, in castings, and like where I want to go. And I've been really dragging my feet on that course. I started it in like October. And it's like until yesterday, I was like 7% of the way through. And I was saying I want to submit by the end of February, but I just wasn't taking the action to do it. And it's interesting. A lot of stuff has happened in the last week or so, in the last few days, or 3 days, 4 days of my life that has lit a fire under my butt. And it's a weird metaphor to go to. I'm going to switch the metaphor and say that
Okay.
I had a stew and it was just like on a really low simmer. The happenings of the last 2 days changed and moved the temperature. I increased heat under the stew. Now the stew is starting to actually cook.
The heat is on.
Quickly. The heat is on in Saigon. I had a Kabbalah class last Wednesday, that I've now listened to 3 times. I've taken this class, or 2.5. I've listened to this over and over because it's just so powerful. And I want to share like how it just super relates to what's going on in my life right now. She shared with us about manifesting. It was about how to manifest the things you want. in your life? And she says, a passive desire will never allow for manifestation to occur. Think of an area in your life that you want this thing to happen, but you're just not taking action on it. It's not really happening for you. You're not really making any movement. And she was like, probably a passive desire you have. You're not taking the initiative to make it happen. You just don't care enough. It might be you want to fix your relationship. You want to have a deeper relationship with your partner, but you're hesitant to do it because what if he rejects me? What if we divorce? What if I have to go through all the fights and like he's not, you know what I mean? So I'm just going to stay the status quo. It's fine the way it is. That's not a burning desire. That's a very passive desire. It's something you want, but you're not going to do anything about it. You're never going to manifest from that level. What you have to have is a burning desire, a deep, passionate desire to really want this thing. And then let's talk about what a desire is. You can have an ego-based desire or soul-based desire. An ego-based desire is for a thing or for, I want money. You can want money in an ego-based way or in a soul-based way. The ego-based way is I want money so that I can buy a Lamborghini so everybody thinks I'm really cool. It's a very ego-based desire.
For validation.
I want money because it will provide me security, because it will provide me freedom. Whoa, that's soul-based. Like what you're asking for is more light in your life. And the way to get that is through having more money. So that's a soul-based desire. So you have to have a soul-based desire and you have to really freaking want it, right? So I really want to marry my soulmate. That's a desire. I really want to marry my soulmate. Okay. Do you want this specific person? That's an ego-based desire. I want this specific person. I want to make this happen. Or do you want the person who's meant for you, where the two of you are going to be able to do these things together and grow together and transform? And it's, oh no, I want the latter. And if it's that person, that's great. And if it's not, that's also okay. So you have to release the ego. If I never buy the Lamborghini, that's okay. Because it's not about the Lamborghini. It's about the freedom, right? That comes from the money. Anyway, that's soul-based desire versus ego desire. And then it has to be burning rather than passive. And then she says, pretty often you need in your life loss in order to prompt you to move from passive desire to burning desire. And then once you have a burning desire, then the heat's on in Saigon and you could, you gotta move and you make it happen. And then you start to put the steps in, you start to take the steps and make the action, which then allows the creator, allows the universe to give you what you're asking for. Because the universe wants to give you what you're asking for. But if you're not in this burning desire place, if you're not taking the steps to make it happen, it literally can't. It just cannot. And not only can it not, but it would be wrong for it to give it to you because your vessel isn't actually desiring of it. You're not a true vessel. If you give your child a toy and the child doesn't care about the toy, he's going to play with it for 5 minutes and then he's going to forget about it. It's going to lie in the corner of the room. If you give a child a toy that they've been dying to have, that's what they really want, well, they're not going to be a treasure to you. So that's the creator being like, if you really have a pure vessel, if you really want this, I want to give it to you. I want to give the child a toy, but I want to give the child the toy that it wants. I don't want to give the child the toy that it's, I don't know. I don't really care so much. So that was the lesson of last week that I've now listened to almost 3 times because it was so powerful for me in this moment of my life. Saturday, I went through a huge loss, heartbreaking, painful loss in my life. And I was floored and just shocked that this deep mourning and grief led me to restarting my acting career.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is so amazing and powerful that it took this passive desire, which is passive, and it's been passive for at least 2 years, if not longer than that, to be honest, probably 4 years, like probably starting with the assault, if we're being told. And it was totally ego-based for a long time of needing validation from others and needing to feel like I was worthy of love and respect from others and all the stuff I've worked through in the last few years of my life. And to transform that, I've now moved it in the last 2 years, really, from ego-based desire to a soul-based desire. Like I 100% now only want success in my acting career for the betterment of the world. There's nothing here that's about my ego. It's gone. It's completely gone. So it's already been moved ego to soul, but it was still passive. And the only way to actually make it happen was to give me the universe had to give me a deep, painful loss to bring me from passive to active, to burning desire. And then the amount of movement I've made in the last, I don't know, 30 hours is more movement that I made in 2 years. And I think that's also the thing of like truncating and changing timelines. Like we talk a lot about, it's not squishing timelines, but still what I want. Like collapsing, squishing timeline, collapsing timelines. That's what I think this is about. I think it's about when you're able to switch from the passive desire to the active burning desire, then you can collapse timelines. So that's where I've been at the last few days or so, has been really embracing that and being grateful for it. Like being grateful. That's, oh my God, that's another thing. I'm sorry. I have to say this too. I also happened to have listened to a podcast a few days ago about trauma. I did not mean to do that. This was like a few days ago before I even realized that the trauma, my assault had happened 4 years ago. Like now, I wasn't even thinking about it. I remember listening to it being like, why am I listening to this? This is like, I've never been traumatized. And then like at the end of it, I was, wait a minute. Okay. So I'm listening to a podcast on trauma and they were saying, like a spiritual podcast on trauma, and they were saying, while it doesn't validate what the other person did, does not at all justify and allow for it. You also have to recognize, you have the opportunity to recognize that was something you needed to go through, your soul needed to go through to grow. So you can be grateful that happened, which is exactly where I'm at. I'm so grateful it happened. It doesn't mean I like the person or I forgive him. I do forgive him, but I don't need to like what he did or want him to do it to me or anybody else ever again. But I'm grateful it happened because it transformed me. So that's the other thought. The relationship with trauma can be both seemingly contradictory things, holding them simultaneously and allowing for the trust of my soul came down here to work through some stuff. And this person enabled me and allowed me, facilitated me to work through that stuff. Anyway, so that's been my yes. I don't even think that answered the question, but that was my yes.
I think it does.
Good.
It does. You know, that also, I'm thinking about, I don't remember where I read this or who said this or from which tradition or whatever it's from. Speaking of anger and things in love, someone said that the souls that act as the villains in our lives are like, it's basically the most love that they could possibly give your soul. So it's very possible that on a completely different level, you and this other person. So it's kind of like if I'm imagining like the meeting. Okay, so I have to go through this kind of discomfort and this kind. So we've created this event where this could happen. Who wants to be the bad guy? Only the soul that really loves you from a place of, I want to see you grow. I love you so much. And I know this is going to be so good for you, this kind of growth. I am willing to sacrifice my being the good guy or being a good person or like whatever by coming and being the villain in your story. I'm going to come down there and traumatize you. That might be hard for some people to hear. I don't know if it's even easy for myself to hear that. You know what I mean?
It actually, I don't know if you can see my face. Like I'm so at peace with that personally. Again, like it might be personal and it might just be like where I'm at in my healing process. But boy, that actually brings me so much joy. And I feel genuine love toward this person right now. As you say this, I genuinely am like, I'm emotional thinking of how, that soul connection. Do you know what I mean? And I will never see him again in his life. Like I will go out of my way to never, ever see him again. But wow, I'm so grateful for his soul. And so thank you for that. Like I'm emotional in a positive way right now, in a loving way.
Speaking of discomfort, because I know trauma is trauma and then there's just regular discomfort. there's levels of discomfort. But I was taking a class a couple of weeks ago where they were talking about exactly this sort of what is the discomfort that you are avoiding? Like where in your life I know that I have to do this thing, but there's discomfort involved in that. And I'm not willing to sacrifice my comfort, essentially. I don't want to be uncomfortable. So I'm not doing it. That's one of the reasons why I'm not doing it. That could be one of the reasons why certain things are passive and not burning. And then only antidote to that is to lean into the discomfort that you're avoiding. And
agreed.
I'm just remembering, like, I think I've talked about this before on the podcast, but I remember when I very intentionally was like, what is the thing that I fear the most or makes me the most uncomfortable? And I was like, the first thing that came to my mind, this was years ago, I was like, improv. Like, absolutely scariest thing ever. And I went and I did that and I hated it, but I kept wanting to go back. So I kept going back. I'm just like imagining myself like going into like this chamber with a bunch of needles and like, and then you leave the chamber and let's do it again. And you just like go back in. Wow. That was kind of like how it felt, even though I know that sounds very dramatic, but that's what we do in our heads. Is I would rather, like you said before, like I would rather go through garbage than do this thing. I'd rather eat cinnamon every day of my entire life for breakfast rather than do this uncomfortable thing.
Wait, do you mean just like a spoonful of cinnamon?
Just like a spoonful of cinnamon. Yeah.
This
like
is so weird. I have to share this. So when I was a senior in college, I lived in this apartment with my best friends at the time. And we had these three really good guy friends who would come over. It was all women. They'd come over and hang out. And one day we did the cinnamon challenge, which was going around in 2011, 2012. And it was like our friend and then my friend Gray did like a spoonful of cinnamon. And they freaked out, right? They're spinning and they're coughing and they're like, because you literally can't do it. So that video exists on my Facebook. It happened, what is it now, 2024? It happened many years ago, 12, 13 years ago. Somebody just commented today on the photo, like maybe an hour ago, being like, oh, OMG, can you believe this? It was like this day, 12 years ago. This is such a weird synchronicity that you should say all of things. I didn't even know you knew this thing.
I didn't really know that I knew this thing. I never did the cinnamon challenge.
It was such a thing when I was in college. That is so weird. So
I was just trying. That's so weird. I was just trying to think in this moment. I was trying to think of something that's not like utterly disgusting and offensive. I was trying to think of something benevolent that would be uncomfortable. And that's what came to me. That's so weird.
It's so weird. I've got to reach out to all of them now. That's too much of a synchronicity. That's so weird.
It is bizarre. Yeah, anyway.
I haven't seen that video in 6 years. That's so funny.
I want to see it now. Anyway, so then I was in improv class last week, and it's the 4th improv class that I've taken. No, it's not true. It's the 5th one. Oh my God, it's the 5th one. The 5th class that I'm currently taking, that I have taken for improv. And it's so not uncomfortable anymore. Like it is, the nature of improv is just that it is the unknown and it is uncomfortable all of the time. But I've just gotten so comfortable with this discomfort that it's become like a completely different challenge now, that it's now more of now you get the opportunity to like refine. It's okay, so how can I like think of puns in today's discomfort?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Oh, now I'm in the chamber of needles and I have to tell a joke. You know what I mean? Oh, I'm in the chamber of needles and I have to figure out a really good turning point for the plot, because like the initial discomfort of the thing, like the initial freak out about the thing is just gone. I don't know how to explain it. It's just, it kind of like when you're driving a car too, like you're like, oh my God, you're just like freaking out because you're in traffic. And then all of a sudden you're just comfortable with being, I think about it all the time when I'm driving. I'm like, it is insane that we are doing this. This is an insane thing to do. We're all just like in these steel containers driving so fast. There are so many of us. There are so many things that could go wrong. So many. We all could die.
Yeah.
At a point, it's like the scariest thing ever. Like you have to trust yourself and the other people so much. So in the Kabbalah class, they were asking, what is on the other side of that? What is the breakthrough? What is it and where is it going to live? So now it's just like and I've talked about this a lot in the past couple of weeks because I've realized this on my own skin, is that breakthrough for me had actually nothing to do with improv or the art of improv at all. It has actually just made me more comfortable in general with discomfort, with ambiguity, with not knowing what's going to happen. It's helped with my social anxiety even. It has helped with every single audition, every single project that I've done, because I'm just so relaxed, because I've been in a situation so many times where I do not know what I'm saying. I don't know what I'm supposed to say. Everything is improvised. I don't even know what the scene partner is going to say. So the fact that I have a script now, I know what I'm going to say. I know what the other person's going to say. I know what the set looks like. There's a real set and real props. I'm not miming it. All of a sudden, that is easy because I've been through the uncomfortable part of it. Like the uncomfortable part is the not knowing. But now I'm in a situation where I know it's the same situation, except I know everything, except it's all written out, except it's all planned. So where would the stress even come from? So it's provided me with so much freedom, and it's provided me also with a lot of detachment almost to my own sort of artist ego self, right? Because I've made a fool of myself in front of people so many times. I've been in the situation where I'm like standing in front of a bunch of people. I'm like, "Duh," like I don't know what I'm saying, blah, blah, blah. And I've bombed hard, like me and my skateboard, I've bombed so hard and everybody's laughing at it. It's fine. So it's in my head, like what could possibly happen today on set in the scene that would throw me off? Anyway, so it's just fascinating that I'm like seeing, I want to say black and white because it's been so tangible for me, even though it is elusive, but it's been so tangible for me to see how putting myself in this insane, uncomfortable situation deliberately, just like planting that seed, it's now just like blooming into just so much, just like relaxation and freedom and like I can do anything. You know what I mean? Just like this weird kind of confidence that I didn't even know existed. And it's not like ego confidence. Oh my God, I'm the most talented. I can memorize my lines super fast. It has nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with that. It's just, I know everything is going to be fine. Like it's that kind of confidence, that kind of self-trust. But it's one of those things where this has been really good for me. It's been so good for my overthinking, analyzing, perfectionism, brain and self that I'm just like, I want to keep doing it because I can literally trace so many things that have occurred in my life. I can directly trace it to me putting myself deliberately in an uncomfortable situation, putting myself in a situation that was as scary to me as walking in like a needle chamber. I'm thinking about the chamber in the movie Matilda.
Yes.
You know, yeah, like that one. Anyway. So there's that.
Very powerful.
Yeah.
I love this, that confidence is not about the ego, your confidence now. It's not about, oh, I'm so great. It's now, I know everything is going to be fine. It's just certainty and faith.
Yeah.
And that's all confidence really is. It's not of us. It's of the universe and trusting in the universe, trusting in the situation, trusting that like things are happening. Play is going to go exactly as it's supposed to. If it's, you know what I mean? I feel like I used to micromanage plays. I used to feel like it was all my responsibility to make sure that the audience understood everything that was happening. I felt so responsible for the entire audience. And that's not my, like the play is going to go the way it's going to go. And that's something starting to work in film and television as well. It has taught me at the end of the day, I can give you 5 takes of something. I don't get to choose which take you use. So I just recently saw myself in a movie that I was like, oh, I wouldn't have chosen that take, right? I saw that and I was like, oh, wow. Like, I know I gave you very different versions of that little scene or whatever. And I was like, I would not have chosen that. But at the end of the day, it wasn't it's not
your job.
I know everything. No. And I know everything's working out fine. And there are people who need to see that take. It is like, maybe it empowered them. There's somebody who had to see it. Like that changed their life or what, like, it's not.
Yeah. All you can do is just show up and give your gift. And then this is a gift to you. You do with it what you will. Like, it's not mine. It's now yours to do with it.
The creator is the editor, producer. All I'm doing is I'm just the actor in life, not just in it.
This is a great metaphor.
It is a good metaphor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you want to say yes to in the upcoming week?
I want to say being present. I'm in a program that's ending in the next week or so. But I do feel like most of the last like week has been, until really like last night, was very me future casting and struggling to just feel grounded and present. And I really like these people. I'm just having a really great time. And I want to be present and fully enjoy this experience. Yeah. And trust. I want to be in this. I really love this idea of confidence is I know everything's going to be fine. Like just trusting, as I want to not be so in my head. I actually said this the other day to myself. I remember thinking this, I'm a Pisces, and Pisces, we're just not great we're very good daydreamers. We're very good at like imagination and living in our heads. And we're not always the best we're not very grounded. My natural inclination is like to be in my head and create this whole world. And I'd like to, anytime that's happening, bring myself to be more present with what's actually happening instead of wishing and hoping and future casting or pretending different things are happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Great. This has been lovely. We were very in the flow today.
Thank you. Agreed.
Oh, goodbye.
That concludes this week's episode of The Weekly Yes. You will find us on all major podcast platforms as well as YouTube, and you can follow us on Instagram as well at The Weekly Yes. Send us your yeses for the week or any story of when you've said yes and it really changed your life to theweeklyyes@gmail.com. And who knows, we might feature your story in an upcoming episode. Keep saying yes, and we'll see you next week.